welcome, dear listener, to Forgotten Tales of the Odd and Unlikely. I'm your host, Lloyd Allen, and this is the New Albion Orchestra. My gentle listeners, I cannot believe this setup still works. Hello, it's your old friend Lloyd Allen. I've returned again for more astonishing tales of the highly unlikely, or improbable. I cannot remember which. Maybe the title is still a work in progress. Oh, it has been so very long since I've done this odd little radio show. I've so many new stories to share with you, dear listeners. Tales to tell of far-off lands and stories more close to heart. A New Albion Radio Hour, Season 2. Or Series 2. A fresh beginning. My boyfriend. He'd call this a reboot. Though I cannot see where footwear would factor in. My boyfriend, yes. No more moping, no more sadness. We're back together. I don't know why I'd ever have doubted his love and loyalty. He held me close when I got back, and although it wasn't immediately right, it sure felt it when I was in his arms, even if I couldn't feel, or move to hug him back, or kiss him. But that's the past now. All that's important is that we're together now. My Ravy encouraged me to do this. Said talking about feelings would be good for me. I don't quite see how, but well. If it makes him happy, I certainly will try. Anyway, all that aside, dear listeners, the perks of a slightly different setup can mean many fun possibilities. Guest speakers, fun stories, the possibilities are truly endless. The perks of everyone back together again, and oh, it is lovely. We're settling back in after our hellscape adventure, and I've managed to dig up some of my old radio equipment. I thought it'd be fun to get back into the routine of weekly episodes. Who knows? You might hear little updates from our adventures here. Today's episode is brought to you by the New Albion Project Squad. If you're looking for excellent high production works by a group of dedicated fans, look no further than the New Albion Project Squad. Is their name naps? Like taking a nap? How can you trust they won't fall asleep on the job? With their crew of hard-working individuals, they will help you bring your beloved fan fiction. Fan fiction to life. Your beautiful fan fiction deserves all the respect it can get. No, it doesn't. So, if you need some help bringing your creations into the world of audio performances, visit Naps. Head to the Discordian Society and ask the nearest napper if you can speak to the Project Squad. Oh, that was brilliant. Thank you for that one. What a lovely bit of comedy to start to. We've got an excellent story for you today, a brand new one called Son Mi and the Strange City, Part 1. So sit back, dear listeners, and let your friend Lloyd yeet this story into your ear holes so it may hit the griddle on your brain until it's the number 76. Is that what Han said? Slay! Slay all your enemies, yes, so I taught her well.
Once upon a time, there was a girl named Son Mi. She was whisked away on an adventure with her dear father and an uncle she barely knew, holding their hands tightly and carefully. It was no fault of her own that something went wrong, and that her father would weep for her for years to come, wishing he could have saved his family. It's a well-known story, one you're certainly well aware of if you've stumbled upon this strange show, but what matters is what came after. The girl scraped her knees landing on the sidewalk, despite the many protective layers of clothes she'd been dressed in. She'd hit her hands, and they beaded with blood as she righted herself, standing up after her tumble. It wasn't the first time she'd ever fallen over, or felt the jolting shock of hitting the ground. She knew what to do, so she looked for her dad. He'd pull her into his arms and press soft kisses to where it bled, promising that they were magic enough to heal her, and he would be right. The pain would fade into giggles, and she would be safe, pressed against his chest, until she ran off to venture and fall again. When Son looked up, the amount of people around the girl made her want to huddle in place. The bustle of bodies came into focus around her, sharpening into something that pierced at her, even more than the pain in her limbs. Did this many people exist in the world? In one place? The Green Sea village she'd grown in was nothing compared to it. She had to crane her neck to see the crowd around her, to make sure that they weren't just the shifting, lonesome silhouettes of a nightmare that had entrapped her. They weren't. They had faces. Ones that didn't look down at a stumbling child at their feet, assuming it was no one's business to help. No matter how many faces she tried to scan, Son couldn't see her dad's kind eyes. She started to cry. Someone bumped into her, and before she could process the apology, they were gone. She was unnoticed, hiding like the side characters in the fairy tales her dad read to her. Fighting to keep upright, only one thought echoed in her head. She wanted her dad. A shop door opened, and she startled at the bell. A woman stood. A shopkeeper? A customer? She smelled funny, something that made her head hurt. "You all right, dear?" she asked. Son stared, wide-eyed. "Oh, you're crying, pet. Are you lost?" The girl looked at the woman for a long moment, struggling to form words. She'd always been taught not to speak to strangers. If her dad wasn't there, at least she could heed his advice. She turned and ran. To her relief, the woman didn't follow. Stupid, stupid girl. How was her dad going to find her if she didn't stay in one place? But by the time the fear had drained enough for her to have the thought, she'd taken too many turns to remember where she'd been. The colorful shop fronts had turned to duller houses, even as she spun around to get a look around her. There was something wrong with the homes. Some of them had crumbling rocks fallen down and holes in the sides of them. Not all of them, but enough that she could stare. However, something else caught her eye. Something to escape the unfamiliar homes of unfamiliar people that no child could resist. A park gate. A park. Children were in parks, right? And if there were children, maybe there were nice parents who could help her find her dad. The parks in the village had been small, little things with slides and swings, fenced off to keep kids from wandering out into the endless fields and beaches that surrounded the village. They promised a safe excitement that could nurture and entertain any child. The park that Son found herself walking into was nothing like that. It was big, so big that she couldn't see the other end of it as she entered, and she had to double-check the letters on the sign.
Park.
she sounded out. There were words above it. The first one, new, she thought. The second one started with an A, but wasn't anything she'd ever seen before. Still, where else could she go? The sun started to cast strange shadows on the ground. The sky was turning dull. She had to find somewhere soon. Maybe, if Sonmi was older or wiser, she'd have recognized that wandering into an open, wild city park with little light or people to hear one scream was not particularly a good decision. This was most certainly not her fault, as she would later curse it as being. A 6-year-old separated from the only family she'd ever known, let alone lost in a strange narrative, was never set up to have a safe and secure time. The sky grew even darker, and Son's tears became hot and uncomfortable on her cheeks. She wanted something to drink. She wanted something to eat. And most of all, she just wanted a hug. She would even take one from her Uncle Lloyd. She'd regretted ever calling him bad at hugs compared to her dad. She stuck to the path and walked, hoping to see someone, anyone. As the sun finally set, she barely questioned the strange lights in the trees that kept her from pitch blackness. Was this what her father had meant when he said the metaverse was strange? Was this the metaverse? Still, the girl walked, even once she'd given up hope on finding anything that wasn't trees. Turning back would mean having to retrace her steps, and her legs burned far too much to do that. Her tears ran out before her shaking breaths did, and a headache took their place. The thing that made her pause was a park bench. They'd been littered throughout, along with manhole covers and litter bins that she'd tried to peek in for food, but to no avail. She sat. She couldn't walk anymore. Her eyes were cold and strained, and closing them helped, her head swimming with a desire to rest. She couldn't sleep there, but where else could she go? Maybe, in the morning, there'd be more people, someone she could call to for help. The light of the day could bring warmth, or let her see a way out. And so she curled up, using her purple jacket as a blanket, and tried to pretend that she and her dad were just camping. She awoke to shouts and bangs. It was still dark. She was still cold. And then she realized, shouting, people, someone who might be able to help. But although she couldn't make out the words, they were cold and hard, and that type of tone that was scary. Footsteps pounded through the darkness closer and closer towards her, and Son made a split-second decision. She hid under the bench, pulling her knees to her chest and making herself as small as possible. She covered her ears and closed her eyes. Even that didn't stop the gunfire from making her flinch each time it went off. New Albion's civil war was no place for a child, after all. Although she couldn't see the man approaching her, she heard it. The stifled shout of, "Oh shit, it's a kid!" reverberated through her hands and into her perception. She heard it loud and clear. She only opened her eyes when he reached out and grazed her shoulder. The man was tall, but knelt down to talk to her. There was color over his eyes, a hard, shimmering hue that she couldn't make out in the dim light. The beaded necklaces around his neck were obscured by the helmet on his head, metal and dented, made for ugly defense. "What you doing here, kid?" he asked. "Did something get you home?" She shook her head tightly, trying to cower away even further. "Who's looking after ya?" She shook her head again, then opened her mouth. Her words were cut off by another barrage of bangs, impossibly loud and impossibly fast. The man next to her ducked down further, covering his head with his arms. "Well, you can't stay here, kid," the man said, even though Son could barely hear him through the ringing in her ears. "Gunfight's bad for anyone, and gov bullets aren't going to stop for a wee girl." He reached out a hand. Hesitantly, Son took it, pulled her out, told her to kneel down real low, and move as quickly as she could. What could she do but obey? Once, her dad had told her stories about fighting alligators as a little boy. He told her how he wrestled, how he sometimes won and sometimes lost. He'd even showed her a gnarly scar on a shoulder he'd gotten when he was just a little older than her, and she'd stared wide-eyed at the teeth marks of the creature and the monsters that he could fight. He'd tried to teach her, but she'd never been as strong as him, and time had run out. Her Uncle Lloyd had tried to teach her to fight with pointed swords, but they'd been too heavy and too sharp for someone so small. She hated feeling so small. She wondered if any of the things would have helped against the figures that chased them, dog-like soldiers in metal suits that she caught mere glimpses of, and would haunt her nightmares for the rest of her years, even once the details of the chase had fallen. The man tried to keep talking as they ran. Child's attention was far better spent on pointless stories and tidbits than the very real shots that could end them in a shower of blood at a moment's notice.
"I was getting supplies, you know," he said. "I live underground with some friends. We gotta sneak out at night, and sometimes they see us. It's not nice when they do."
She looked at him, half tripping over a tree root. Her chest burned too loudly to respond.
"That's where we're going. It's safe. Underground. We live in a maze of tunnels. They'll never get to us, you see. There's other kids there, though maybe none quite as young as you. And we'll get you back home. I promise."
Son's dad insisted that you always had to keep a promise, so the man must be telling the truth, right? He took them to one of the manhole covers and pried it off, ushering her down. It was such a long drop she faltered. The man glanced back at the ever-growing noise.
"I'll go down first if you're scared,"
he said.
"I'll catch you."
The girl took a deep breath before reaching to try and climb down. It was too high, the ladder going down far too complicated for the hands that were still chubby with baby fat. She slipped. But the man was true to his word, catching her with a hand on either side of her torso and steadying her.
"Thank you,"
she said, and then, without thinking, hugged the man tightly.
"Oh, you're gonna be safe, but we gotta go."
Catching their breath, they set off, slower that time. The place wasn't exactly a sewer like Son had been expecting. Instead, the tunnels were lined with strange patterns and sights. Her dad had told her tales of traveling through mystical tunnels. Was it one of them? Perhaps her dad would be there.
"Where are we?"
she asked.
"The tunnel's beneath the city. A huge place, but don't worry, I know the way to where my friends are. We'll get some food in you when we get there, okay? And oh, you are freezing. How long were you out there?"
Son shrugged, once more closing off. The man gave a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Her dad gave smiles like that sometimes, and Son asked where her aunts and uncles were.
"What's your name, kid?"
"Son Mi."
"Well, it's nice to meet you, Son Mi," he said.
The man paled as his words were cut off. The sounds again. The scary men had followed them. Hadn't he promised they would be safe? He gripped the girl's wrist, tried to pull her away, tried to run, but the government soldiers were too fast. They pulled a terrified Son away from the well-intentioned voodoo punk, restraining her arms and legs, and reporting the rescue of a rebel child so young that she could be rehabilitated. Son heard the sound of a gunshot, and the man was no more.
Well, not sure how accurate that was, but wasn't that delightful? Each episode, at the end of our stories, we will have a number performed by a new guest singer. So sit back, relax, and here's your cover song for today.
Baby, baby, bells in the night. Baby, baby, sweet lullaby. When the wind blows the leaves on the window outside. When the baby is warm and there's no need to cry. When the daddy is singing sweet lullabies. And the stars are all smiling, and the moon's in the sky, and the wolf has gone running to the forests below, and the daddy will never, not ever, let sweet baby go. Baby, baby, bells in the night. Baby, baby, sweet lullaby. When the cradle is rocking and the stars are in space, and in daddy's arms little baby is safe, and dreams in such wonders will fill baby's head, and adventures await, and books to be read, and the wolf doesn't dare know to come round too close, 'cause the daddy will never, not ever, let sweet baby go. Baby, baby, bells in the night.